when you tasted the bread, it was almost nutty. It's a slight nuttiness. Listen to the texture of this. Yeah. So now I think you've given me a bit too much flour today. I almost blow my eyes, so I'll be careful. We use a flour. Now, where will you get good flour in the United States, in North America? You will get good flour generally I know certainly in the store called Whole Foods, and you will get good flour if you live in an agricultural community, or even better if you live near an Amish community. They will always have good flour. But this is typical of any food, garbage in, garbage out. So it's, I think on the recipe, it's about 14 ounces of brown flour. In that I've put 2 tablespoons of oatmeal, and then I've put my whole all-purpose flour. Then I'm putting sugar, just a teaspoon of brown sugar. Just a teaspoon, I'm quite careful about that. And then salt, the recipe says 1 teaspoon. I actually don't put a teaspoon anymore because at this stage of my life I'm old enough to know my cardiologist, and he's told me I'll meet my undertaker if I don't cut down on my salt. So I've got used to it and I've cut down on my salt. So now, the next thing is the baking soda. And there I just have to say to you, I'm a little bit more careful than usual, but I'm able to do this by eye. Please don't do it by eye. The bicarbonate soda, the baking soda, you must put in just a level teaspoon of baking soda. That's the one thing in this recipe that you have to be very accurate about, a level teaspoon, okay? And then it gets naturally lumpy. I want to show you that it's lumpy. I don't know if you can see from here, but it's basically lumpy. You cannot allow lumps to win. I can put in lumpy sugar, I can put in lumpy salt. That's fine, it will dissolve. Bicarbonate soda will not dissolve, and then you're eating a nice bread with some marmalade or jam in the morning or jelly in the morning, and you get a very acidic taste. And secondly, it won't do its job because it's to raise the bread. Now, this is not bread that requires any raising or putting a temperature or whatever, and it's actually a very simple, no skills recipe. So a woman said to me last week, that's so simple a man could make it. So basically just bring all those dry ingredients together, and as you've seen, there's been no skills so far. Okay, bring all the dry ingredients together. Now my wet ingredients. Please, 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 again, case of garbage in, garbage out, good quality buttermilk. Okay? Okay? Did you notice that pouring in, it was almost like liquid yogurt?
Yes.
Okay? Now some genius in the world, somewhere, has created something called low-fat buttermilk. Buttermilk is low-fat. It is low-fat. So you don't need to take out the remaining bit of fat that's in it, and it will not make good bread. So if you buy low-fat buttermilk, I'm telling you, bread won't work, okay? Then I'm adding 1 free-range egg, okay? We get our eggs directly from a farm that we know, and I have visitors here in Dublin. No, in County Laois, it's about 70 miles from Dublin. It's from the area of Ireland I am. It's basically, that's the one way we know that we're going to get good quality by knowing the producers. Anyway, we mix then our buttermilk and our egg together, and the last ingredient I put in there is a tablespoon of canola oil. Now, has anybody ever made Irish soda bread before? Irish bread before?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you're probably expecting me to make a round loaf, and you're probably expecting me to put a cross in the middle. And the cross is variously, people will say it's for Christian reasons, and if you're of the Christian faith, yes, it is a Christian symbol. Equally, a baker will tell you it's to let the air out of the bread and let it expand a bit more. Whichever, both are correct, okay? This recipe, but the problem with that bread, it's lovely on the first day. On the second day, still edible, and by day 3, honestly, you could use it for an extra shelf in your cupboard. Okay? So this, and I tell you what, when you make that bread, there is skill involved. Because if you overwork the dough, or you mess with it just that little bit too much, you suddenly get very tough bread. With this, as I told you and I keep repeating, there's no skill involved. So I'm putting my tablespoon of canola oil, that tablespoon, bland canola oil, the blander the better, okay? And that will give me that extra day or 2, because we're all the same now. We no longer eat, well, certainly in Ireland, and I'm sure it's the same all over the world, people no longer eat a full loaf of bread at every seating. We don't do that, we can't do that. So I'm just missing the fork with my whiskey. And so what we do is we all tend to eat bread less. So when we bake a loaf of bread, we want it to last longer, okay? So I'm going to now combine these two, and that's it. So I have my wet ingredients, I've combined my egg into my buttermilk. I'll get rid of the evidence here, and I'll just show you now. You see, I've just got my flour, very simple. I'm just going to put a crater in the middle, like a volcano. And I put a crater in the middle, and I'm going to put in my liquid. So there's no skill, right? I'm just combining the two, okay? And then I'm keeping back about 10-15% of my liquid. The amount of liquid you require will depend, amazingly enough, on the outside humidity. So if it's a very wet day, I will probably need less liquid. If it's a very dry day, I will need more liquid. And today it was quite dry in Ireland. I know I was in London and it was at 30 degrees, which is about 90. It was disagreeably hot. Okay, so I'm bringing it together. I put my hand in, I should say that. I form my hand into a claw like as if I was going to pick up an apple. Okay, and that's all. And I'm going to go clockwise, and in about 40 seconds I have my bread ready to go in the oven. I'll talk to you about this before I do. You're all expecting me to make one loaf. But actually, I always decide to make two small ones with the same amount of dough. And because I think it's lovely if you decide I'm going to do a St. Patrick's Day brunch or something, or you invite people over around that time of the year, it's very nice to give them a loaf of bread to take home. So I'll just demonstrate that for you. I'm going to combine this in about 40 seconds, and the texture I'm looking for, if it's right, if it's correct, will be like oatmeal in the morning. Simple as that. So it's very makeable. It's something you can do at home once you have the correct ingredients, okay? So I'll go through you a little bit there. Just bringing it in from the outside all the time. That's all. Really mixing it together. And I'll get under a light if I can, yeah? And you can all see up there. And then, now, I try to handle it as little as I can. And today I've put the right amount of liquid, okay? So I can see here, watch me, now it seems very irreverent and it seems not the sort of thing, to do with food. But if you watch me, I wouldn't normally do that, but it's sort of plopping. That's the texture. And that's certainly not the texture that you would have made your bread. You would have gone much more into the oven. And then quite simply, I just put it in my two pans. But because it's going into the oven very, very wet, I need to show you, I need to talk to you about baking it. You're putting it into an oven at 380 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? So the oven is 380 degrees Fahrenheit. The oven has to be to temperature, and it needs to be to temperature. So it needs to be the full 380 degrees when you put it in the oven. You bake it for 55 minutes. It doesn't make any difference that I'm making two small pans instead of one. I don't do it because I believe it goes into the oven. Can you all see it glistening there? It goes into the oven so wet that we would say in Ireland you've got to bake the pajapers out of it. Don't ask me what the pajapers is, okay? So you've got to bake it very well. And after 55 minutes you take it out of the oven and you dump it out of the pan, leave the pan out of the oven, put it back into the oven for another 10 minutes. The colour you're looking for is my table looks dark over there. You're looking for about that colour, the colour here. So you're not really, it's sort of a mahogany colour you're looking for. And it has to have got lighter. And then it will be absolutely beautiful. If you underbake this bread, everything it's supposed to do for your digestion, I'm afraid to tell you it will do the opposite. You'll still be trying to digest it in 5 days' time. So you must bake it very well. Okay? So basically, it's a really lovely bread. I think it's the easiest way to create Taste of Ireland anywhere in the world. But it might take you a little bit of time to get your ingredients together. Somebody said to me, but I'll never be able to get wheat that coarse. We call the word coarse. And they said to me, I think what I will do is I'll get the normal wheaten flour I can get, and I'll add 25% crushed wheat. And I said, now that seems like a good idea, because that definitely gives the texture. There was a crumbly texture to your bread tonight. It looked crumbly, yeah? And is that texture. That's part of the taste. So I chose to demonstrate the bread this way because I know it's a bread that you will be able to repeat abroad. I only managed to start making bread properly when I was living in the end in England, and I could use it with the ingredients from England. My daughter lives there at the moment. She uses this recipe in there. Now, over there, for example, they have another problem. Your problem is you get buttermilk, low-fat buttermilk. They have a problem is that their buttermilk is nearly like yogurt. You know, it's really like thick yogurt. So they have to water it down a little bit. But it works very well, this recipe, and I think it's a real way of bringing a taste of Ireland to your home. Does anybody have any questions?
Just oatmeal, the oat flour instead of the wheat?
You know what, I would try it. I would try it. I think that it will be a different flavour. Baking is a science.
Oh, yes.
And when you mess with a recipe, sorry, I have a brother-in-law who's a great baker, and I said to him once, I asked him a question, and he said to me, well, Tommy, if you change the flour, it's going to change the whole balance of the recipe. But I would certainly try it. I would certainly try it. When I bake at home, I always add a lot of oatmeal because I like the crunch. I like the crunch. I think it's great. Yeah. But I would, yes, yeah.
Can you use nut flour?
I would be cautious about. I just don't know. I have to say I'm a traditionalist. If there's one thing, if there's a recipe, with me a recipe is a recipe is a recipe. So I'm very loath to say, but putting more oats seems.
Yeah.
I'd say as long as the amount of flour is the same, you're good.
I can't use the wheat.
Oh, you can't use wheat flour.
That's my problem.
Okay. Well, then I would try it. I would try it. Yeah.
Okay.
At the end of the day, testing a recipe like that is not very much money. You know, it's not very much money.
No,
I would give it a go. And then maybe, you know, you could do all sorts of things with this bread. You could, you know, you have to really, once you get used to making, you could decide I'll make it on a flat pan, make it like flatbread, you know, and you just bake it a little bit less because it's a lovely recipe. Actually, the taste is lovely.
Well, I like the fact that you don't use yeast.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a non-yeast bread.
Do you believe in adding raisins?
Not in this bread. When we make fruit bread in Ireland, we make it with all-purpose flour, and then it's a different recipe.
Okay.
But I'll tell you my story about my father died a very young man, 46 years of age, and I was 8 years of age when he died. But I have a few lasting memories, and one was he loved pound cake, what you call pound cake, with caraway seeds. But I understand that when the Irish went to the States, they made soda bread with caraway seeds. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. But not pound cake.
Right.
But I definitely, what he ate was pound cake. And it's, you know, it's funny, you come back, somebody mentioned this to me a few years ago. I said, but that's what Dad used to eat. You know, but it wasn't soda bread. In Ireland, people ate pound cake with, and they used to call it slab cake. And you'd say, I'll have 6 inches, or I'll have 3 inches, or whatever. You know? Yeah. You could buy it in the shop. You know, the days before it was packaged. Because now we're nearly packaged ourselves, really. You know, everything is so packaged. Now, what is Irish soda bread? Last thing, what is Irish soda bread good with? You probably know by now. It's very good with an Irish breakfast, American breakfast, Canadian breakfast. It just works. It just works terribly well. It's very good. Please. There's one way to meet the bad guy when you die, is if you put low-fat spread on Irish. You're going to meet the bad guy. This is the worst sin. Honestly, please put real bread. I was in somebody's house this morning. I was a house guest, so I should say nothing. And down come, they had this lovely brown bread, and they put low-fat spread on it. Life's too short. If I get to be 82, I'm sure I'll want to be 83, and I might change my mind then. That's my opinion. And then the next one is, but just an Irish bread, don't change your diet. And then the other thing is, it's very good in the morning. We eat it, we eat it with orange marmalade.
Right.
That's what we do. Now our children, the younger, and I wouldn't have that, we eat it with jam, so raspberry jelly or strawberry jelly or whatever. It's lovely with cheddar cheese. Real cheddar cheese, but not with smelly cheese. We have lovely farmhouse cheeses in Ireland. We have really nice farmhouse cheese, but it just doesn't work with the. If I'm having a farmhouse cheese, I really want to have French bread. You know. Any other questions?
Put some of my honey on it.
Oh, I'm being filmed now.
I was saying honey. I have
Hello,
beehive.
folks at home.
Yeah, I have beehives, so I like putting honey on stuff.
Brilliant with honey. Yeah, we get our honey from an apiary down in Tipperary. Were you at the Rock of Cashel? No. In Tipperary. Anyway, we know exactly where our honey comes from. I love it.
Mine comes
honey,
from the
for me,
back
honey is better than penicillin. It's a medicine. It's a medicine. Yeah. Thank you very much.